I used to believe you ought not plant any kind of crop in July because the heat would kill everything. And if you are thinking the same way I was, then you have missed out on a whole heap of vegetables. It may sound unreasonable, but July is truly the best time of the year to plant. If you know how to choose the right crops and plant them the right way, you can get yourself ready for a stronger harvest this coming fall. We are not going to waste any open spot in the garden. Of course, not every plant can stand the hot sun. So in today's video I will show you plainly which 10 crops you should plant in July. At least 2 of them can be grown where you live. And do not forget to stay until the end of the video, because I will give you a clear list of the best producing varieties for each kind. At the same time, I will share with you the crop that suits the area where you are living. Let us make this season the biggest harvest season we have ever had. Number 10. Cucumbers. July can be a mighty hard month for planting straight out in the garden because it is the hottest month, the sun is the harshest, the days are about the longest on average, and it is also when pest pressure in the garden often breaks loose, along with plant disease troubles. For that very reason, cucumbers are the perfect crop for us to plant out in the garden in the middle of summer. Cucumbers do not need the whole summer to bear fruit. Many varieties only need about 55 to 60 days from seed to harvest. If your area still has enough warm days before the first frost, you still have a chance. The important thing is not to sow them and then leave them be. If the weather is too hot, start them in trays for a few days or give the young plants a little light shade. Keep the soil evenly moist. Spread a thin layer of straw around the base, and if you can, let the plants climb a trellis. When they climb, they get more air, it is easier to spot bugs, and the fruit stays cleaner too. For cucumber beetles, I use insect netting when the plants are still small. Close the edges of the netting tight. But truth be told, in my experience, by the end of July, the pressure from aphids and bugs is often not as hard as it was in June. It drops quite a bit. So planting more cucumbers in July can sometimes give you a very good harvest. So if you are planning to plant broccoli out in the garden right now, stop there and switch to cucumbers. In this heat, broccoli can wear down fast, turn bitter, and have a hard time giving you the quality you are hoping for. Cucumbers will be faster, stronger, and much more worth the effort. Now let us move on to the next name. Number 9. Potatoes. That is right, I am talking about potatoes. This is one of the easiest and finest fall crops you can grow, because aside from steady watering and fertilizing every 2 weeks, they hardly need much care at all. Not only that, potatoes are also a crop that stores extremely well. You can grow them until frost shows up. When frost hits the plant, the stems and leaves will die back, or the plant may also die back on its own naturally. After that, you only need to dig up the tubers and store them in the garage through the winter. My fall potato crop usually lasts me all the way into spring. Truth be told, just 3 days ago I harvested all the potatoes I had planted in spring in 25-gallon grow bags. They are all sitting in the garage now, slowly drying and letting their skins heal, and after that I will put them into mesh bags to store for a few months. As for the smaller, misshapen or less pretty tubers, I will set them on the kitchen counter so they sprout, then plant them again at the end of this month for the fall potato crop. Some of the tubers here have already started sprouting, so truthfully, I could plant them right away. But since the weather is still a bit hot, I will wait a little longer. If where you live gets frost in late September or the first half of October, plant seed potatoes at the beginning of July. That way the potatoes have about 2 weeks to come up out of the ground, then at least 2 more months to grow tubers big enough. Now let us move on to the next root crop that I give quite a bit of priority to planting this July. Number 8. Carrots. If you have ever thought about growing carrots, you have probably heard folks say carrots are a spring or fall crop. The reason is that carrot seeds are well known for sprouting poorly when the weather is too hot and too dry. Too hot and too dry will lead to a very, very low germination rate. But the truth is not quite that way. Carrots are not as afraid of the heat as you may think. The biggest problem is only at the seed germination stage. And today's little trick only needs one thing that most every home has: cardboard. Because carrot seeds are very small, you cannot sow them too deep. I usually just make shallow rows, about 1/4 inch or even a little shallower, then scatter the seeds in and cover them back with a very thin layer of soil. But the top layer of soil is the part that dries out the fastest in summer. If it is too dry or too hot, carrot seeds will sprout very poorly. So after you finish sowing, water the soil very deeply. Then place cardboard over the seeded rows. The cardboard will keep the soil darker, cooler, and cut down on water evaporation. You should also use bricks, stones, or something heavy to hold it down so the wind does not blow it away. After about 7 or 8 days, start lifting the cardboard to check every day. When you see the first carrot sprouts poking up, remove all the cardboard right away and keep the soil moist enough at all times. This is when the young plants need light, but they can also die very easily if they dry out. Number 7. Radishes. If you want quick results in 20 to 30 days, then radishes are a fairly fitting choice. The reason is that they do not spend time growing a big stem or big leaf canopy. Right from the start, the plant puts its strength down into the ground to swell the root, so as long as it has enough moisture and loose soil, it grows very fast. Now let us get to planting. From my gardening experience, the best way is direct sowing. Do not start them in trays and then transplant them. Loosen the soil, sow shallow, keep the moisture even, and if possible, choose a place with morning sun and light afternoon shade. I also do not sow a whole bed all at once. One small row each week is better than one big patch that you cannot eat fast enough. Radishes are a very fast-growing crop, but the next plant is different. It is slower, pickier, and it surely asks you to put in more work. Number 6. Zucchini and summer squash. If your garden has already had zucchini or other kinds of summer squash from the beginning of the season, July is a very good time to plant another round. These plants grow fast and set fruit fast, but they also wear down very fast. Do not try to keep an old squash plant alive all summer, because after a few months the plant often starts getting weak, becomes more likely to get vine borers, fungal disease, yellow leaves, and gives poorer fruit. The best way is succession planting. About every 4 to 6 weeks, you should sow or start another round of new squash, so there are always young plants in the garden. You can sow directly into the soil if the soil still has enough moisture, or start them in trays 10 to 14 days ahead, and plant them out when there is open space. If the weather is too hot, give them light shade for the first few days, so the young plants do not get shocked. When planting, choose a spot with plenty of sun, loose soil, rich organic matter, and water evenly. Squash loves water, but it does not like soggy soil. Mulching the base with straw, dry leaves, or mulch will help hold moisture better, and if the old plant is already badly diseased, pull it out early. Do not let it become a place that pulls pests and disease over to the new plant. Number 5. Basil. If you have already planted basil, or if you happen to forget to plant it, then start right now. Basil is one of the easiest plants to grow in the summer and fall garden. It does not need too much care, but it gives you a great many leaves to use. The good thing is you can sow it straight out in the garden, or start it in trays and then transplant it. I like to start it in trays indoors first, then bring the plants outside little by little to harden off before planting them in the ground. The reason is that basil seeds are very small, and if they meet a heavy rain, they can get washed away. But if where you live gets lighter rain, direct sowing is just fine. Why should you plant another round? If your first round of basil was planted early in the season, there is a good chance it is starting to flower. When the July heat comes in, the old plants will wear down faster. So having another round of young, strong plants with softer leaves beside them is a very wise way to stay ahead. With the old plants, do not just leave them alone. Go check them and cut off the flower tips down to the next leaf node. From there, the plant will put out new branches and keep giving leaves longer. Number 4. Swiss chard. Many folks pass this plant by because they think July is not the time to grow leafy greens. I understand. Lettuce wilts easy, spinach bolts easy, but Swiss chard is much tougher. It is not a fast runner like radishes. It is a steady standing plant. The leaves are thick, the stems are firm, it handles heat fairly well, and it can even take a part shade spot. If you have a corner of the garden that gets morning sun but light shade in the afternoon, that is a place well worth trying. The best thing is you do not need to pull up the whole plant. Pick the outside leaves, leave the center heart, and it will keep putting out new leaves. One small row can give you handfuls of greens steady through late summer and into fall. Swiss chard gives you steady green leaves, but the next plant gives you something else, good smell in the kitchen, and a fresh round of young leaves when the old plants have started flowering. Number 3. Romaine lettuce. When folks hear lettuce, most people think this is a cool season crop, but green romaine lettuce does not care for frost or freezing. Even one light frost can damage the tips of the leaves. So the goal is to let the plant mature and fall when the weather has cooled down but has not gotten too cold yet. To do that, we have to start in summer. The best way is to sow the seeds indoors while it is still too hot outside, then transplant the plants into the garden when the temperature starts easing down. If where you live has its first frost in late September or early October, sow romaine indoors from the beginning of July. After 4 to 6 weeks, transplant the plants outside around the middle of August so they have enough time to grow. If frost usually comes later at the end of October or in November, you can wait until the end of July to sow. When you transplant them out and the weather is still hot, use 40% shade cloth so the plants are less shocked and keep growing. Number 2. Green beans. Green beans are one of the easiest crops to grow in July because you do not need to start them indoors and then transplant them into the garden. Just sow them straight into the soil. What I like about green beans is that they are much less troublesome than many other summer crops. When tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, cucumbers, or squash start getting bothered by pests, fungus, and leaf disease, green beans often still stand pretty strong. In many years of growing them, I have seldom had to spray or treat disease on them, but you also need to look at your climate. If you are in a place with a short, cooler summer, such as New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or farther north, you can direct sow right now. The plants will do fine. But if you are in the south, in a harsh sun area, or in the dry, hot southwest, still direct sow, but give the young plants a little light shade. Sun that is too strong can make the bean pods a bit tough and stringy, though they are still edible. Number 1. Red Malabar spinach. This plant misleads many folks right from its name. It is not true spinach, and that is exactly why it suits July. Spinach usually meets heat, then bolts, turns bitter, and gives up. Malabar spinach is different. It is a heat-loving vine with thick leaves and red stems, and the deeper summer gets, the more reason it has to grow. To grow it well, do not let it crawl on the ground. Give it a trellis right from the beginning. The soil should be rich in compost and drain well, but it must stay evenly moist. This plant likes heat, but it does not like being thirsty. If you sow seeds, soaking them overnight will help them sprout more easily. If you can get a strong growing tip, you can root it from a cutting and then plant it, and that way is faster. When the plant climbs strongly, pick the young leaves and pinch the tips often. Doing that will make the plant send out more branches and give more leaves. It does not eat just like spinach. The leaves are a bit thick and a little slick when cooked, but stir-fried with garlic, cooked in soup, or put into hot dishes, it is very much worth growing. And this is our final list for today. Now let us go to the part you have been looking forward to most: how to choose seeds and crops that fit the place where you live. Do not skip over it, because this will be the thing that decides 70% of your success in this season. Now before you buy seeds, I want you to do these two things for me. This part is a must. First, choose the exact variety. In July, do not just look at the plant name. Look at the days to harvest and how well it handles heat. For cucumbers, give priority to short-season varieties like Marketmore, County Fair, Sweet Success, Space Master, or Bush Pickle if you grow in containers. For green beans, choose bush varieties like Contender, Blue Lake, Jade, or Tender Crop, because they are quick and easy to direct sow. For zucchini and summer squash, choose early fruiting varieties like Black Beauty, Gold Rush, or Early Golden Crookneck. For romaine, choose Paris Island Cause, Winter Density, or Coastal Star, then start them in a cool place before taking them out to the garden. As for basil, if your area is humid and often gets leaf disease, look for DMR varieties like Prospera DMR or Rutgers Devotion DMR. Second, look at your area. If you are in a place with a short summer and early frost, give priority to radishes, carrots, Swiss chard, bush green beans, and romaine started in trays. If you are in a middle area like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or many places in zones 6 to 8, you can plant nearly the whole list as long as you count the days to harvest. And if you are in the South, Texas, Florida, or a place with very harsh sun, give priority to red Malabar, basil, green beans, Swiss chard in part shade, and use shade cloth for young plants. The seed packet may be the same, but each person's garden is not. Gardening has never been an easy thing. When the heat comes in, many folks start thinking the gardening season is over. Plants slow down. Some spring crops have died back. The beds slowly get empty, and it is easy to think, well, let us leave it for next year. But if you do it right, July is not the end. It is like a second chance to begin again. Choose the right crop, the right variety, and the right time, and you can still carry your garden on into late summer and fall. If you want to know more about the old gardening tips our family still uses, leave a comment below. And if you find these ways useful, subscribe to the channel. I will see you again in the next video.